Awesome. Well, this morning I'm so glad to be with Pat. Been friends for a really long time, and when I think about the Blessed series and I think about the E standing for eat, I think of Pat. Not like because you love to eat, just because that's how we became friends. Really, was dinners at your place. We were just talking about it before. I mean, before me and Caitlin were even married. I mean, like we had some friendships there, started there, but then later on, I mean, when we were over at your house late nights playing card games and eating meals trying to scrounge around in the refrigerator, trying to figure out what meals we could create together, is where we really kind of bonded over that, and then Romania and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, for those of you that don't know Pat, you want to share just briefly a little bit of who you are?
Hey, my name's Pat Hardin. I'm one of the pastors here at Church of the Grove. I've had the privilege of being part of the Grove since 2008. Nathan is one of the first people that I met when I came to Church at the Grove because I wanted to know their student ministry director, and that was Nathan's position at the time. And I just loved students, working with students, investing in students, and so we became good buddies, started sharing some meals together, having some fun events at the house, playing cards at night, and the friendship just grew from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things that you've always said, as long as I've known you, has been it's the connection between loving and eating. You know, you can't love somebody without eating, or something to that extent. Yeah. I don't know if that's exactly. I'm probably butchering.
Well, there's a book written on the 5 love languages, and I've often maintained there should have been a 6th love language, and that's food, because it's the language that everyone speaks. We all eat, we all need food, and some of us, like me, just love it. Yeah. We love buying it, especially when we find it on sale. We love cooking it, we love eating it, and we love sharing it with other people.
Yeah. And I mean, you not only say that, I mean, and you would say that your love language is food, but you've lived this out. I mean, over the course of the time I've known you, and way before we knew each other. I mean, this is something that you did on a regular basis. I mean, I know there's lots and lots of stories of people that you had around your dinner table for, to develop relationships and friendships, but even to see people come to know Jesus, I mean, have happened right around your dinner table or because of the relationships that have been formed at the dinner table. What's some fruit of some of those times where you've just been around a table with people?
Well, the most obvious thing is your hunger satisfied.
Yeah.
That's probably the thing that doesn't need to be said, but it's obvious. Maybe something that's more important even than that is the friendships that are built because barriers are lowered. And that seems to somehow happen around a dinner table more than any other time.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because the focus is not on our conversation and what we're saying and making sure I get every word right. The focus is on the food and us satisfying our appetites, enjoying something together, complimenting the chef, letting everybody know what we like or dislike. There's a freedom that comes with the attention being on the food rather than on me or on you.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. So some of the relationships, like I know there's specific stories, but give me some of those examples of.
Well, back in the early 90s, the first one that comes to mind is a young man that I met at a student ministry gathering at a church that we were attending in Loganville long before Church of the Grove ever existed. This fella was from a Catholic background, and so was I, and I got a chance to share Jesus with him. We talked for hours and hours. This young man wanted to accept Christ. It began a relationship that started us playing basketball together, eating meals together. His parents invited us to their house to share a meal, to show their, gratitude for us investing in their son, Joy and I. And it started this reciprocal process where we would go to their house, they would come to our house. And after about a year, they started coming to church with us. And 13 weeks in a row, this couple came to church. And on the 13th week, the father marched down the aisle at the end of the service and gave his life to Christ. The next week, the mother gave her life to Christ. Both of the boys had already gotten saved at our house, over a meal.
Yeah.
And they were just waiting on mom and dad to come to know Jesus. But to see that entire family baptized together was one of the most incredible experiences of my life up to that point.
Yeah.
Fast forward a few years, from 92 to 96, and we started going to Blue Springs Youth Soccer Association.
Yeah.
And I think it was their first year of existence. Kelsey was playing, and maybe 4 years old.
Yeah.
and we meet this little girl on the team. Her and Kelt's become best buddies after one practice. I start trying to find out who the parents are. Oh, the mom's one of the coaches. Who's the dad? Well, he's somewhere on the sidelines. Nobody knows, I finally meet the guy. He doesn't talk. I thought maybe he's mute, he just doesn't
So
have
you
to
saw that
speak.
as a challenge, right?
And I said, dude, I can feel this silence. Well, over the next month, we invited them several times to dinner. They finally came and ate with us. They felt, hey, we need to have you guys over to our house to eat. I don't know why, but people just feel that way.
Yeah.
So we went over, had a blast. It started this back and forth thing that lasted for several years. And after about 9-10 months, they started coming to church. A year later, they began to follow the way of Jesus. And 2 or 3 years down the road, they went overseas as missionaries. And I thought, wow, this all started because we shared dinner together.
Yeah, yeah.
How
It's
cool is
incredible.
that?
Yeah, it's incredible. And then, for most people probably, listening to this know a little bit of your story, but you and Joy and Kelsey felt led to go on the mission field and went to Romania and worked with the Brewski family for a little while, and then eventually started another campus of Church of the Grove. That was in 2012, right?
Right.
And, I got the opportunity to go over and visit a handful of times. Always a blast being over there, and especially with you and Joy and the whole family. But I've always said that church over there, that campus of Church of the Grove at the time, was a church that was built around a table, because that's how y'all did ministry there. And what was so cool about being over there is that the people you had around the table, there was just a I don't know what the word is, but just this conglomeration of people that was just very different. No one was very different demographics, very different socioeconomic status, very different languages. I mean, I think I went there one time and there was like 5 or 6 different languages that were sitting around the table. They all knew English because we're dysfunctional. We only know one language and they know like 10. But it was just this really cool thing of, I mean, honestly, a picture of heaven in a way, just where you saw all these kind of tribes and tongues and people groups that were sitting around y'all's table on a regular basis.
Well, we had the privilege of working in the orphanage there, and we got a chance to work with some orphans, mostly gypsies, Romanis. But we had some Romanian students that we met in the high school there when we were volunteering. We had quite a few students from the university that came because we volunteered there. And we had them from all over the world.
Yeah.
6 continents were represented in our church. 7 languages were spoken. But any given night, you'd have 3 or 4 languages around a table. And we tried to do something every week to use as a platform for inviting someone to come in and witness our fellowship firsthand. And while they might not want to come on a Sunday morning, they would come during the week. And we'd have a small Bible study going, but we would also share something to eat.
Yeah.
And there's just something miraculous about sharing a meal with somebody and introducing a spiritual topic into the conversation.
Yeah.
Most of the time it got to where I didn't have to introduce it, someone else did.
Yeah. That's great. Well, and I do think as our world is shifting and people are more hostile towards church or religion and just the institution kind of the church, I think that I think we're going to see people come to know Jesus at a faster rate around a table than we do sitting in a service on a Sunday morning. I think that's where the real church is going to become the church that we're called to be. What do you think the biggest kind of enemies of utilizing the table, utilizing the eat kind of portion of that, eating meals together? What's the biggest enemies that kind of push against us not doing that?
I think most of it comes from within ourselves. We say, oh, what if they don't like my cooking? Or what if they can't eat what I'm fixing? I don't know if there's any dietary restrictions. That's, is this person coming over gluten-free? And do I know what I need to know? And to that, I would say, just be you, do you, fix you. And they'll either like it or not.
Yes.
They'll eat it or they won't. But they're gonna respect the fact that you invited them over and offered the hospitality of your home.
Sure. I've had some very interesting things at your house that I would not necessarily want to have again.
I agree. Some of the leftover casseroles that we made were not worth mentioning.
Yeah.
But one of the coolest things that happened over at the Fellowship of the Grove in Hardin was we had a student in our ministry, a college girl, who wanted to go out and feed homeless people. So our whole team got together and we made sandwiches and took them out, went under the bridges, went in the parks. We found people in the most deplorable conditions and we fed them. I had this brainstorm of an idea. Hey, what if we invite them to come to one of our services and we have a meal afterward and they can share a meal with us? So the next big event coming up was Easter. We had done this maybe twice, I think, with a mission trip in the summer and once in the fall. So we go out in the spring and we do Feed the Homeless Day, and we passed out hundreds of sandwiches and cards. And we actually have 2 guys show up at our service on Sunday morning, Easter Sunday service. They had probably begun celebrating the night before and celebrated through the night. So when they came, they were quite inebriated.
Gotcha.
And they talked to me through the whole message. As I'm up there preaching and sharing about the resurrection, they're hollering back at me. Well, some of the people in our fellowship are trying to hush them and quiet them. I said, let them talk. And the conversation continued even after the service was over, as we sat and shared a dinner together, that these guys wanted to know more. But I thought, man, how cool would that be if we did something similar on a Sunday morning here? It might shock everyone. But what if people started talking back and forth while the guy's preaching?
Hey,
how would you feel about that?
I'm not used to people being awake, so it would be very different. No, so people not liking the food, that kind of stuff, what to have. I think one of the other obstacles is just, my house not being clean. Those kind of hospitality type things of inviting people in. So what tips? I mean, you said you kind of be yourself and do the thing you normally would do. But what are some maybe other tips for just the average person that maybe is a little timid to just have strangers over? Because I think it's easy for us to have friends over, but it's a little more difficult to have strangers, just be a part of our normal kind of table gatherings. So what are some tips or ideas?
For me, it's been establishing a practice of inviting people. Sometimes my house looks messy.
Yeah.
Okay. Discipleship is living life together and seeing how someone who follows Jesus lives Jesus every day.
Yeah.
So how do you live Jesus with a messy house?
Yeah.
Do you just not reach out to anyone or invite anyone to come in because your house is messy? You can, but I don't think that's how Jesus lived his life.
Yeah.
I think he let people see the messiness and all.
Yeah.
So I would say, man, open your home, make a practice out of being consistent to invite someone in. It could be someone from one of our campuses that attends with you. It could be someone from your community group. I've seen several of our community group leaders become intentional about inviting new people to their community group to their home in order to get to know them better. I was shocked in the past when I've invited someone over that went to church and I thought was a Christian and had them tell me, I've just been going to church my whole life. I'm not really a follower of Jesus. And we've had a chance to have a personal discussion about what it means to follow the way of Jesus versus them hearing something from a stage and going, I don't know if that applies to me.
Sure.
They can ask personal questions. They can talk to you about specific circumstances that they feel comfortable sharing over a table because all the attention's on the food and not them.
Yeah.
And they'll never say this in a church building on Sunday morning, and probably not even in a community group setting, even if it is in your home. But something about sitting around a table, sharing a meal, defenses being lowered, allows for that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm all for that. So, when are we having a meal together?
Well, I could do lunch today if you're free.
I've already got another lunch appointment, but we'll take a rain check on that.
I did get to have lunch yesterday with a couple of guys from the church who've been up here doing some work, and I just wanted to show my appreciation.
Yeah.
We had some phenomenal conversation, and I noticed some guys at the table next to us were kind of eavesdropping.
Yeah.
You just never know.
That's true. That's good. Awesome. Well, thanks, man. Thanks for sharing a little bit about your story and
It's
the
a
power
pleasure.
of food.
I would say this, even if you don't invite someone into your home, take them out for a meal.
Yeah. Just the power of the table. It's not so much where the table's located.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. Just invite somebody to eat with you.
That's cool. I love it.